Well, we have arrived at a moral and cultural tipping point in America and are in desperate need of a wake-up call. There are over 300,000 churches in this nation, but fewer people than ever are living out their faith in public. The influence of Christianity has steadily decreased, while our culture has become secularized. We may have reached a Bonhoeffer moment. Our religious freedoms are under attack. And as the nation lurches further left and millions of Christians don't vote in elections, some believe there's still time to prevent the complete destruction of our nation. I'm not so sure. I'm David Fiorazzo, and this is Christ and Culture. Our decline began about a century ago, but in the last 50 to 75 years, millions of religious citizens have lived their busy lives and watched this country spiral downward in every way. Sin is celebrated in public. Evil is called good. Biblical literacy of Christians today is at an all-time low. Attacks on the truth, free speech, and the Constitution, however, are at an all-time high. Like many of us, author of the new book, Letter to the American Church, Eric Metaxas has been trying to send an urgent wake-up call to pastors and believers across the country. He believes that as Christians go, so goes America. Metaxas states, quote, "It is the silence of the American church on a host of issues today that many people say, oh, that's not a gospel-related issue. I don't want to be divisive. I don't want to be political." It is that silence which directly parallels the silence of German Christians in the early 30s, and it led to the satanic evil of the Nazi takeover of that culture where they crushed the church, end quote. Roughly a third of German pastors and churches compromised and were silent in the face of evil. Metaxas also says that if only another few thousand Protestant pastors had resisted tyranny at that time and spoken out, the Nazis would not have succeeded. Drawing a parallel to America, what doomed the German church and nation is happening here, and we don't even seem to see or understand it. Cultural Marxism has infiltrated the major institutions, advancing wicked, leftist ideologies like abortion on demand, discrimination against Christians, socialism, transgenderism in public schools. Sadly, even some churches are playing along. Our own government is now openly hostile toward those who used to be protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution. Many of us have been censored, and Eric Metaxas explains how his national radio show was wiped off YouTube because he dared address controversial topics. He also said this, quote, "Suddenly people said, oh, you're not allowed to talk about that. And I said, this is America. People have died so that we can talk about anything freely. But a chill has fallen over this country, and the church has been silent. And there are voices in the church now advocating silence, saying, just don't be political," end quote. Now, I often remind people that someone's morality will be legislated by those who are elected and sent to represent we, the people. Wouldn't you prefer biblical morality rather than the godlessness and wickedness and demonic policies that we're seeing unleashed and implemented these days? The church's silence is especially hurting young people in many measurable ways, including confusion, depression, sexual brokenness, and suicide attempts. So, are we finally willing to really trust Jesus and pray, speak out, stand for righteous causes, and vote? The Blaze TV staff said there is a sinister left-wing agenda being carried out across the country. The FBI, for example, is making examples of peaceful pro-life demonstrators such as Paul Vaughn. He is yet another man of faith arrested by force and intimidated, who faces up to 11 years in prison. The same tactics were used against Mark Houck. Just weeks ago, I reported on Biden's Justice Department neglecting its duty and choosing not to arrest one single arsonist, vandal, or pro-abortion terrorist in the more than 100 cases since May, where pro-life pregnancy centers and churches were attacked, vandalized, or firebombed. The Blaze stated, "Church and state has been warped into state versus the church," and claimed as of last week there have been no indictments for the over 170 attacks on Catholic targets since May of 2020. That's a lot and says a lot. Now, we can't expect true justice from our current government, of course, but we can speak out and call out injustice. There are consequences when Christians take the path of least resistance and when Americans ignore evil. People need to dust off their Bibles, get engaged. America needs to dust off the Constitution and speak up. Are you in or out? At this point, the choice is still ours. God bless you and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.